Hi, everybody. My name is Corey Rice. I'm Director of Strategy at KORTX here in Detroit, Michigan, and we're here for our next external video partner series, and we're excited today to talk to Adstra.
Thanks, Corey, for having us. I'm Jen Andre, Sales Director for our agency partners here. I've been with the company almost 6 years. I'm joined with Elizabeth Morrill.
Hi, Corey. Thanks, Jen. I am VP of Product Development at Adstra. I've been with the company for 17 years.
Great, thank you. And so as Director of Strategy at KORTX, I'm coming up on 5 years. Like I said, we're based in Detroit, Michigan, and we are a marketing and advertising technology company that is focused in 3 areas: programmatic, paid search, and paid social. Today, we're going to be focusing on programmatic and more specifically talking to Adstra about audience targeting and using various segments and different verticals in order to reach your audiences across the programmatic ecosystem. Here at KORTX, we work across essentially all industry verticals. So we're always very interested to speak to data partners like Adstra to talk about methodology, and the way that they develop audiences, and then the way that KORTX can actually set those up within campaigns to assess which segments, which audiences are actually driving performance within KORTX. We do have 2 activation models. We have a primarily managed service where we have hands-on keyboards running programmatic campaigns through KORTX, but we also have a self-service model. So a lot of different ways that we can engage with both brands and agencies in order to run successful campaigns. Jen, you want to give a little overview about Adstra?
Yeah, Adstra has actually been around for over 40 years. We used to be called ALC, American List Council, and we rebranded to Adstra in 2020. We offer 3 primary services to our customers. We have Connexa, which is our enterprise identity platform. We have direct mail list brokerage and list management services. And then we have our digital audiences, which we'll be discussing today. All of our digital audiences cover verticals including auto, wealth, business, health, and caregivers. We also build custom audiences for client-specific requests. All of our data, as Corey is familiar with, is available across all platforms, DSPs, DMPs. So some of these examples include Trade Desk, DV360, Xandr, Cadent, LiveRamp, IOTA, Freewheel, to name a few. We can also extend our audiences to social channels via our partnership with LiveRamp. I work directly with our clients to put together audience recommendations, help with strategy, answer any questions they may have about how our data is sourced. We'd like to think of ourselves as an extension of our agency team and our platform partners, working behind the scenes to make sure that you all have the data that you need to make sure it's scalable and performing to its optimal potential.
Great, thanks, Jen. And it's actually very complementary to my role at KORTX as head of strategy. My team is responsible for putting together the actual strategies for RFPs and campaigns. A big part of that is selection of audience partners and developing a targeting strategy. And it's great timing to talk about this because there's been quite a few shakeups in the industry lately when it comes to audience targeting and data partners. I think one of the most recent examples is that Oracle is actually moving away from the advertising business, traditionally being a fairly big audience partner. How do some of these changes that are happening in the ecosystem impact the clients, and what is Adstra doing to kind of work through this transition?
Yeah, great question. So as Oracle was one of our biggest partners, we immediately started looking at the Oracle reports dating back probably 6 more months or so and identified the top usage from our agencies and brands. We then curated messaging to each of these clients and set up calls to make sure that they know how to access our data. So there should be no disruption to our clients' campaigns and targeting. All of our data is still flowing to all the DSPs via LiveRamp and the partners that we work with. So, and it was interesting because very few agencies that were using Oracle branded audiences realized that Adstra was actually contributing to many of the audiences that they were using. So there's been a lot of time and focus on our end, educating clients, letting them know how to access the data, letting them know how it sits, pushing custom audiences where we need to, so that essentially there's no disruption to their campaigns when they need that.
Got it. And then from our perspective on the strategy side, we spend a lot of time with our brand and agency clients collaborating on audience targeting, really trying to not only hone in on what their target customer audience looks like, but looking for aspirational audiences, maybe pockets of audiences that uncover new opportunities. What are some of the trends and questions that you've seen with some of your key clients when it comes to using audience data and targeting?
Yeah, definitely. So agencies are entitled to ask and should be asking where their data is coming from, how it's being sourced, how are we building these audiences? Are they FLA compliant? Are they HIPAA compliant? Are they COPA compliant? With new state regulations, how are we building these audiences and what actions have we taken? So Elizabeth and her team are continuously monitoring these changes and ensuring our data meets and exceeds the industry standards.
Got it. Okay, and then I want to zoom in on one particular vertical because we do quite a lot of it in the healthcare and pharma vertical. I know that Adstra does as well, and obviously there's heightened privacy, HIPAA compliance, all sorts of regulatory benchmarks that need to be met, whether it's healthcare providers, caregivers, actual patients. What sort of steps does Adstra take, and what's the methodology for ensuring not only quality but that you're meeting regulatory standards?
Excellent question. Adstra's health and caregivers audiences, so these are our health and wellness and ailment propensity data sets, are curated specifically to be HIPAA compliant, 100% HIPAA compliant in keeping with industry standards. So we leverage a combination of clinician administered survey data as well as first party claims data and pharma data. And this represents over 50% of US claims as well as Medicare Advantage data. All of the data is de-identified and managed through HIPAA compliant processes. No PII ever leaves the clean room. No user data or identities are exported, nor can they be reverse engineered back to the original claims or prescription data. So only the model scoring mechanism is exported, which is then used to score our own national consumer file and then fuels all of those key segments that we have across health and caregivers. Adstra follows the NAI guidelines, which state that any ailment segment must not contain less than 10% of the US population. Feeding those segments is approximately 25 million postal-based records at a minimum. The segments are also refreshed every 30 days to account for opt-outs, ensuring the highest quality and privacy compliance. And on the healthcare provider side, Adstra's HCP data is gathered from a combination of different sources, including state license data, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, as well as provider enrollment chain and ownership system database. So by corroborating these multiple sources, we ensure that the data is not only robust, but it's also reliable and accurate. And in addition to that, we have NPI numbers associated with all HCPs on our audiences.
Got it. And it's fantastic, Elizabeth, that you're able to go into that level of detail. I think one of the frustrations from a strategic side, whether you're a company like KORTX or an agency or even a brand, is that there's really just a lack of methodology and details about how these segments are created. What's the source data? What's the seed? Is there modeling? All of that. The ability for Adstra to go into that level of detail is really a huge difference maker, and it definitely influences when we're deciding which data providers to work with, how we're going to approach that. On a similar note, ethnicity targeting and multicultural targeting has been a huge initiative. We continue to see that grow. A little bit similar to healthcare in the sense that, we do find that clients want to understand the methodology of how ethnic-based targeting is qualified and accurate, especially when there's no language qualifier, right? When you're targeting a Hispanic audience, obviously you can look at things like browser language, just language spoken, but when you get other ethnicities like African American, Asian, it's a little bit more difficult. So could you talk a little bit about how you hone in on ethnicity targeting and verify that?
Yeah, so we've revamped our ethnicity targeting. So this includes Hispanic, African American, Asian ethnicities. Elizabeth can elaborate on the detail that we've gone into to revamp these targeting.
Yeah, and actually we've seen an increase in state-specific privacy regulations, especially around ethnicity. Adstra has removed all records from our ethnic segments for those states. Currently, there are 14 in total that are impacted by the new privacy legislation. And this obviously has an effect on the scale of those ethnic audiences. So we've curated what we call new proxy segments, and those leverage census data. So by using the percent census data, we're able to not only create segments around Hispanic, African American, and Caucasian, but also introduce a new segment around Asian ethnicity. And all of these exhibit significant scale. They can be used to supplement those that we're starting to see a decline in to really help with the scale targeting.
Got it. And all of those factors can be variables as to why a certain data provider may be added to a campaign or not added to a campaign. The ability to get down to that level of detail on methodology, like I said, really makes a huge difference when you're in the planning stage and trying to decide, which partners and which variables to bring into a campaign. So that's really helpful. So looking forward, it's already Q4. Is there anything that Adstra has on the horizon or new products that you're getting ready to bring to market that you wanted to speak to?
Yeah, so we've expanded our B2B data and added 75 net new audiences to our offering. So we now have over 400 business segments for our partners to choose from.
Our Adstra business audience actually is unique because it offers both breadth and depth. So that means that we cover businesses from SOHO, entrepreneur level to Fortune level, and everything in between. We also go deep into each of these organizations to offer professionals across a wide variety of titles, functional areas, and industries rather than just a few key contacts at a company. As part of Adstra's continuous improvement efforts, we've rebuilt the B2B audience and expanded our offering and scale. And as Jen mentioned, we've added over 75 new segments, including new titles. We have many new C-level titles. We have new industry-specific groups like banking, emergency services, investment. We have new functional areas like purchasing and procurement, security and risk management, transportation and logistics. And we've also added a new business segment, which will be updated quarterly to reflect the net new companies. So we're always looking to add segments that are trending, that are in high demand, and we leverage feedback from clients such as yourselves to help drive those product improvements.
Great. And it's encouraging to see that companies like Adstra are always looking for ways to expand, to look for new opportunities for audiences to bring into market. Because as we know, the industry changes so quickly, and there's always going to be new opportunities to test new audiences, see what's driving performance and all that. So that's great to hear. One last thing I wanted to call out is when I went to the Adstra website, I was excited and surprised to see that there's so much information available about methodology, data sources, and all of these different categories. That has helped me as a strategist because it's kind of a one-stop shop to be able to get as much information as possible. Is there anything else on the website that you'd like to call out that would be a good resource for potential planners or strategists?
Yeah, that's a great call out. So we do list all of our audiences as well as PDFs that dig into sourcing and methodology on where every audience comes from. So you can find that at adstradata.com/audiences. And then you can also reach out to me directly for a full copy of our data taxonomy, which gives segment description and pricing for all of our syndicated audiences. And my email is jennifer.andre@adstradata.com.
Great. Well, it's been wonderful to connect with both of you. I really appreciate the time. Like Jen said, anything you need for Adstra, adstradata.com. Anything you need for KORTX, KORTX.io. My email as well is very simple. Just Corey, COREY, at KORTX.io. And we look forward to hearing from anybody who could benefit from a further conversation or has any questions. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks, Corey.
Thanks so much, Corey.